Today's video is sponsored by the good folks over at Bombas. Bombas makes socks, but they also make more than that. And on top of all of that, every item purchased is one item donated, and they actually go towards our homeless, which is really cool. So you're helping clothe others while clothing yourself.
Plus, that's like the most needed thing among the homeless.
Yes, that's their tagline. Or it's not their tagline, but it's like their number one thing that they say is like socks, underwear, stuff like that. Those things are the most needed items within our homeless communities, which is unfortunate, but I mean, Bombas is here to help. They're also here to help you guys as well. So if you use our link down below in the description box, as well as our promo code, which is WEAR20, it'll save you 20% off your entire order, and it'll also help out somebody in need. Hey, what's good guys? My name's Chris. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. Today we got a detailed look at an old shoe that I just reacquired in one of my favorite colorways of the shoe, which is pretty cool. And it's one that I posed this question to you, our viewer. Was this the last great Kobe? Think. For those of you guys that might be new within the sneaker scene, this shoe right here is called the Nike Kobe 11. But not just that, it's also called the Nike Kobe 11 Elite because there was two models of this shoe. Surprisingly enough though, unlike the past Elite models where there was the regular season version and then the Elites during the playoffs, this shoe dropped with the Elite first. I thought that was weird. I don't know if anybody else thought that was weird, but I know I did. Like most releases, I ended up grabbing the original launch colorway, which was just a red to black fade shoe. It had a rubber cupsole, but it was translucent. The traction, unfortunately, on that shoe that I did play in was awful. And then the second pair of them that I bought was the Bruce Lee colorway, which is my second favorite colorway of this shoe. I tried playing in those too because people back then told me like, hey, even though they're translucent, those ones worked really well too. I took those to the same courts. Same thing happened, man. They were awful as far as traction is concerned. However, when I played in what was called the Kobe 11 EM for engineered mesh, almost every one of those in every colorway had a solid rubber bottom, which is what these guys have right here. And they did have the same traction and all of that stuff for anybody wondering. So the shoes were not much different, but there was a couple of tweaks between the two. The traction is one of those things that just wasn't changed, which I think is great just because like there's some kind of consistency there for performance heads. And with all the colorways that I played in the engineered mesh version of the Kobe 11s, with the solid outsoles, the traction was phenomenal. So I was in the market for something kind of old and something new. Obviously, these are new for me. And when I was looking at the Kobe 11s, I was like, man, that was like the last great Kobe. I know that we can consider the NXT 360s, but that shoe actually was a great performance shoe. It just was not part of the actual flagship line, the numbered series. They stopped at 11. I think that that was unfortunate. I wish that they would have just kept going like they do with the Jordans, but I also understood Kobe wanted something that was like only what he wore is what was numbered. So I get that. But like I said, I was kind of like searching on eBay and I was like, man, I really want a pair of Kobe 11s again, but I don't want just any colorway. I want the colorway that pays tribute to one of my favorite sneakers of all time. I'm not sure if you guys know what I'm talking about here, but yes, this colorway is based after the Black and Cement Air Jordan 3, which did originally release back in 1988. These shirts are coming soon. So for those of you guys that are wondering, there's information somewhere on the page right here or on the screen. There you go. But not only that, this was more of a tribute to Tinker than it was to the shoe itself, but obviously they used a shoe's colorway as reference, which I think is really dope. So again, this shoe, it kind of gives tribute to the Black and Cement 3s with that black Flyknit upper. It fades in the gray. You've got the Mamba kind of like scales in the back with his Achilles stitches. This one though, on the other shoe, that's sick. I wish that it said Air. It should say Nike Air on there. I don't know why it doesn't, because they do have Air inside the shoe. It's just not Nike Air, it's Nike Zoom Air. On top of that though, we got the Jordan 3 inspired tongue, which I also think is really dope. So we've got that gray synthetic leather. The Kobe Shizuku logo looks a little bit weird in my opinion on it because it's not quite centered. It's like very high sitting.
I feel like it should be a little lower.
Yeah, like it doesn't look right. So I wish that that was just barely. And behind the tongue though is a really cool tribute where you've got Kobe's signature, you've got Tinker's signature. I think it's really dope, especially since Tinker had nothing to do with this shoe, you know what I mean? Like Eric Avar did his thing, like Avar's a beast. Man, that guy gets like no love. within the sneaker community. He should. But like I was saying before, I think that this shoe right here is kind of like the last great Kobe shoe where it still felt like a Kobe. Everything in here, like I said, from the traction all the way up through the upper, the cushioning, all of that stuff, the looks, the colorways, the storytelling on them, like they didn't do it any better after this, I think. Unless you count the Protros, but you shouldn't because those are redundant, you know? Like they're re-releases or bringbacks. As far as fresh stuff, this was the last one. Now, if you are in the market for one of these things and you did want to play in a pair, make sure that you get this option right here, the solid rubber. I'm telling you, the translucent just wasn't good. It was unfortunate because that rubber was on like some of the great colorways that the shoe actually offered. This is one of the few though, like I said, with the elite version of the shoe where it's solid rubber. So make sure that you get this one or go with the engineered mesh, whichever one I guess you prefer or whichever one is more in your price range, because prices for these things are ridiculous. I actually got a really good price on these because I was patient. I waited on eBay for a long ass time, but if you go to like one of the resale apps, people are taxing for these joints, man. It's crazy. I can't even believe like how much some of these Kobes are going for because they never went for that much while he was still around, which is unfortunate. The tech though is awesome. This is like the reason why a lot of people consider the GT cut as like, oh, this could have been a Kobe. A lot of people word it weird though. They're like, oh, I think that this was a Kobe, but then his contract wasn't. None of that stuff. I know the guys that designed that shoe. It started off as the GT series, which was a 3 sneaker series. They wanted from the get-go the cut, the run, and the jump. And the cut was kind of modeled after what the Kobes were, which is like low profile stuff, but it was never intended to be a Kobe shoe whatsoever. Like after Kobe's retirement, they did the 80 series only for performance, and then the Protro series also as their retro line, but that's what Protro is all about. It's performance retro. But anyways, the cushion right here is just awesome. We have a lunar long carrier or drop-in midsole, and the forefoot is all Nike free stuff. So we have been seeing this kind of thing happen on and off in the Kobe series since the Kobe 2s. And then in the back here, we have a large volume Zoom Air unit. Super simple and super comfortable setup, very effective. Love that they have the liner on there as well. If you guys remember, some of the first shoes that actually had the drop-in or the removable systems was the Kobe 7s. The liner, for whatever reason, just didn't get glued down right, so that thing peeled up like crazy. And then they went away from the liner altogether and they just started going straight foam, so it would all be lunar, and they had like weird snake textures all over them. Sometimes they were slippery, sometimes they just weren't comfortable. They like grip your socks all weird and get your socks all messed up on your shoes, which these ones don't. Socks fit perfectly within these and they're awesome. But again, with the Kobe 11 Elite, they brought this back. I think the Kobe 11, the engineered mesh, had the non-liner version, which is interesting. One of the weirdest features of the shoe is actually in the Flyknit build right here. It's something that you can't really see. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get like a good look of it like on the B-roll cameras and everything, but throughout the upper that's like tied in from medial to lateral, there are actually like TPU strands. It looks like fishing line, and it's all the way through. This is to really strengthen that Flyknit build, which if you played in the Kobe 8s and even the Kobe 9s, the Kobe 8 was engineered mesh, the Kobe 9 was Flyknit, at least the one that wasn't the engineered mesh version. That was also an elite version. But this was basically to keep your foot on the footbed perfectly. On top of that, it's also to add strength to the upper. So this area right here, kind of like at that pinky toe area, gets a lot of stress and everything because that's where you're moving and where you're planting hard and shifting inside the shoe upon changes of direction. And a lot of times that area right there, when it's knit or textile, would just kind of tear or rip over time. And with these plastic strands within there, I wouldn't say completely stops it, but it helps prevent it from happening. Also, something that I think is very interesting is that notice what is missing in this shoe.
A torsion bar.
You guys need to drop in a super thanks for that. I'm just saying, that was elite level knowledge right there. I didn't even fish for it. It was just a simple question and she nailed it on the first try. But anyways, yes, there is no shank plate, there's no torsion bar, it's just a flat sole. All of your weight is actually doing the work. And guess what? Nobody complained about these whatsoever like they like to do with the Kyrie shoes, because those torsion bars sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes are overrated. Sometimes you just don't need it in the shoe. This is one of those shoes. And again, nobody complained about it. This was a lot of people's favorite shoe that year. Now, if you are in the market for a pair of these right now, I would go true to size. Wide footers, I'm not sure because I'm not a wide footer. I want to say that some wide footers did go up half a size, if I remember correctly, because the plastic strings that are in there don't stretch the way that like the knit would by itself. But again, if you're a regular footer or a narrow footer going true to size, you should be good to go. Any quick thoughts on these before we go?
I did have a quick thought, but it was a better quick thought when I was like way far away from the shoe.
What do you mean?
Because from where I sit, it looked like smushed cilia for the traction pattern.
Oh, like Adidas and stuff?
Yeah, to which I was like, of course it works great if it's in the proper...
I mean, same concept though. Little nubs broken up. Each one is individually broken up, so it's not like it's a continuous line. So with a pattern like that, like those types of patterns, at least on certain floors, they tend to have like some of the best bite, because you can think of each one of those little nubs as like individual teeth. So when your foot is flexing, all of those little nubs, it doesn't matter kind of like where you are, like that nub is going to be biting the floor, which is not apparent on most shoes. Normally, like the bottoms are kind of bulky, and so they'll kind of move with the midsole. Shoes like this are a little bit different. So those types of patterns are pretty interesting because, like I said, on certain courtsmen, like those things like bite like crazy, depending on the rubber.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, do not go with the trans. I'm just warning you, especially after however long it's been since these released. I don't even remember when these released. 2015. It's almost been 10 years.
Yeah, they actually probably released in 2016 because mine says that it ended production in December.
This colorway. This was a later colorway. So the original one is probably released in 2015. So yeah, a shoe that's going to be that old, translucent rubber doesn't age well. Some solid rubbers don't age well either. I actually have a pair of the Kobe 9s over there, and the rubber on that is not good. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for all the support. Again, big thank you to today's sponsor, which is Bombas.
Oh yeah, I would like to vouch for them. I've been running in their performance socks, and they are great.
I just like them casually. I've been using theirs. We actually
He has for years.
Yeah, we've done a review on them a long time ago on the channel, so it's kind of cool that they're a sponsor, but they actually have new socks. These are dope, okay? Like, we're going to this Stranger Things thing.
Oh yeah.
These are being rocked for sure. If you don't like tall stuff, they have quarter cuts. They also have no-shows. So I love their socks for casual use. She loves them for performance use. It's a kind of a win-win. And like I was saying before, they actually have different categories now. When I first started using them, they were just socks, but they actually have underwear and t-shirts. They even have slippers. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Let us know down below in the comment section if you agree. Is this the last great Kobe that released? And again, I know that the NXT was a great shoe. It was a great performer, but I'm talking about 1 through 11. It was the last good one. Thank you once again for watching and for being here. And until next time, guys, have a good one.